Good afternoon, good evening, good morning. This is You Change the World on stream over multimedia and over social media, sorry, and over podcasts and YouTube especially. I would like to invite you, like I always start this by asking that you're subscribing. It has some impact, so I'm repeating because I think you finally join and you finally show some interest because we have content for you. And we are going to have an amazing month of April coming up with guests and topics that are pretty unique that I don't think you can hear anywhere else. So this is what I'm proposing, and I hope that you will join. Today it's going to be a bit of a shorter transmission because I have, normally this is taking place on Wednesdays, and there is an exception for this week. So you find me here on Thursday afternoon. So here is the topic that we wanted to cover for a little bit because it comes back all the time, and this is about managing change. Managing change, right? So whoever you are, but especially whatever position you have in the work environment, in the workplace, and it can be corporations, it can be organizations, and it can be small startup companies, mom and pops, family owned, all the different variables that can describe a place where people work, form a community, have been loyal to the company and for stayed here for a while, and sometimes for a long time, will have, especially these days, a challenge of transformation, system transformation, manpower transformation by having new managers, by having new people. I'm coaching sometimes people who have changed bosses in 2 months about 5 times because there is out there some confusion, I would say, and maybe those transitional years when things are not looking as great as it did economically, or because just the influence of media makes it that people are panicked or get very scared. Even leaders do that. Even leaders let that kind of noise and buzz bother them. They have the money in the bank, they have the leadership of market positioning their product, and they are doing well. Everything, in fact, is pretty shining and pretty. Not, of course, is the case for everybody, but I'm describing a typical situation of companies, and I'm talking about a large one here. Multinational. They have leverage from, sometimes I remember now a luxury brand where a very famous one and very, very, very successful one with one brand that is very popular, but so many stores remaining empty. And that's the price to pay when you're in retail and in luxury products. Imagine that only one store of the entire world is working so well, making so much profit that it compensates for so many other stores that are not doing well, but needs to stay in those malls and different locations just to remain there, stand the brand, and be somehow showing some competition against the same kind of line of products or line of you know how would I say sometimes I'm looking for my words, but line of segment, a segmentation of the market. And that's really what keeps this brand strong, when there is one thing that compensates for the other. So all I'm saying here is that sometimes, and many times, and especially these days, the chaotic kind of atmosphere in the air is there, and that creates an influence on decision makers, stakeholders, who are smart people, who have wisdom, who have experience, that nevertheless will let a certain kind of influence impact them to the point that their decision will be, well, let's cut staff now. Let's cut all those positions. Let's save money in case I'm going to need it. Or it's not even that rational. I'm sorry. I am really trying to find the words today. This is about and only the influence that is created out there, and that will have this influence on the decision making. I just want to remove all the rationale about it. In fact, I want to remove the rationale entirely and say there's a lot of companies that are doing these reorgs without knowing what they're doing. And when they do that, that's what creates the turnover to be so high and have so many times managers changing, from one place to another. There's another reason for that, of course. Technology is running like, fast and furious. And because of that, competition is reactive and not proactive. And because of that, they're going to lay off people by saying, you know what, your line of expertise is no longer needed in this company, so try to find it somewhere else. But here now we're focusing on something else, like AI, artificial intelligence. And if you don't have the background to be a good engineer, a good coder, or a good designer for this new environment, which is AI, then really that's a good. I mean, I don't know if it's a good reason, but it's the reason you're gonna be given that you've been laid off, and you are going to be nevertheless recognized as a high performer. But the high performance is no longer enough for this kind of rationale. But this rationale, I think, has some things in there that are not really completely truthful. And this is not the topic of today. I didn't want to criticize or to be analyzing the situation. I want to give a certain relief, in other words, to those who have been laid off and don't understand what happened to them. They was right in the middle of even almost signing a deal if it's a sales person, or someone was about to release a new product, or a team of people about to release a new product. All of that is changing so much and so fast and so much in different styles that obviously it sends a message of uncertainty and a feeling, especially, of not belonging. And it's funny, in this, and it's not funny, but it is in fact the reality. The coaching that I practice the most is to really tell people to try to create a boundary and gain autonomy, a lot of it, in order to keep your independence, and really try to make a two-column spreadsheet. All the items on the left side that you're controlling, and on the right side, all the things that you're not controlling. Or if you want, you can reverse and do this on the left to the right, because usually we put on the left the accountability, and on the right we put the assets. And I just really advise that you think of what you're controlling. And one of the things that you're controlling is yourself, and is your life, and is your choices, because there's still freedom of choice. That's number one. Number two, your employer should understand this independence that you need, especially about your destiny, especially about your career. And if it is for you to take now a new turn of being proactive, marketable, right, updating your resume, and starting to have interviews, even you're now sitting at your current position, this is what I always say. You need to provision it, and your boss should understand it, because it's too unstable. And your boss also is not in control of your destiny. No one else but you is in control of your destiny, right? And if you believe in God, then there is God above you. But your destiny is in your hands, because you still have to make efforts and try your best, right? To find those answers about what I like, what I want to do, where I'm going to be the best of myself. And in fact, enjoy my work, enjoy life, integrate the work into my life, so that in fact I have a work-life balance. And I'm starting to also decide, and the earlier the better in your life and your career, decide everything that relates to those choices. Once you're clear about what you want, do you believe me that once you're clear about what you want, you know exactly how you're going to write your resume? You know exactly which position you're going to look for, which companies you're going to look for to work for, eventually, even some level deeper, the boss that you would like to look for, to work for, or look for. Those are things to think about, because the more you're clear about those things, and the more you can zero into what really fits you, like a real tailor who customizes a suit for his client or a client. I insist, you need to customize your destiny to who you are. and to what you want. Until you find out what you want, there will be always confusion. You'll send 200 resumes all over the place until thinking that you, because you send so many, you're going to get someone who's going to be interested in you to invite you for an interview. But this is not the way to do it. It's not the right strategy. The right strategy is to really explore, reflect, and see who you want to be. Now, it's not an advice, it's a fact. People get to where they want when they know what they want. Okay? It's very clear. When you don't know, you get people around you who love you, who have feelings for you, who care for you, can help you, support you in finding those answers, or a professional coach or a mentor that knows you and has been working with you in the past, maybe reconnect with everybody you know, the closest that you know, the ones that you trust the most. Make that really deep analysis of what you want, and when you know what you want, you can do that. And now this is something interesting that I deviated a little bit from the topic of change, but this is change. This is the change that comes across and comes to you, right? Forced on you, that you need to be ready for. That's the number one way of managing change, is to be always prepared for the change to come. And sometimes so not predictable even in the sense of what change it's going to be, that really the best is to cut the dependencies, the umbilical cord to so many different people who think they control you, that when you realize that they don't. Can you imagine you're really your own boss? And if I have a boss, it's because the system requires me to have one, and I respect the boss. I align myself to what is required of me. I'm paid for that reason, a salary, and get a check every 2 weeks. But there's so much things that are under your control and your mind that you can really put in place and make happen for you, for your family, for your dear ones, and have availability for your children, for youngsters, for all the things that you want in your life can be totally adapted to your work life and to your work style, to your lifestyle. Anyway, this being said, managing change now for a leader is one of the biggest challenges today, because especially of technology, but also because of this turnover, change of people, change of management, change of technology. So let's take one example before I close today, because I said that will be shorter, and tell just a story about technology, right? Someone has been working 20 years in the same company, and it's a company that has a lot of blue collar workers because it's a manufacturing plant. Especially, there is of course different other settings around the world, but this is a multinational company and plants all over the world. It's one of them where I have the head of the plant as my client, and who has the challenge all the time, but this time a huge challenge with someone with very great value, who has been in the company for 22 years and a half, I think, and really is resistant to a change of technology. There's been decided already for 6 or 7 months that this technology is coming, an ERP, a technology of management, of workflow, of rationalizing efficiency, productivity, new technology, new machinery to do more in terms of production, and integrate also artificial intelligence to some extent. And of course, someone who's been used to a one routine for 22 and a half years, right, is not going to be happy to be told that now he has to change complete everything. So the first reaction is threat. The threat. I feel threatened. I'm going to lose my job. I'm not going to be able to understand something new. I've been doing this for 22 and a half years. You want me to do something now and so new? And this is the reaction. The reaction is going to be all kind of excuses, all kind of blockages, all kind of obstacles that this person is going to put on his boss and on all the people around him. So in the coaching, we have been exploring different ways of communicating with him, different ways of not convincing him of anything, not negotiating anything, a mix of things about being firm, having this iron hand in a velvet glove, being extremely assertive to some extent because you need clarity, and extremely clear, and then very nurturing at the same time, being a servant leader, in other words, really offering time and availability and competencies to train that person, to coach that person, to offer all kind of resources that person can use in order to do a transition to this new universe. Unfortunately, that person is very stubborn, very stick to his habits, and he thinks he has the power and leverage to refuse and to say no. The thing, and really, the truth is, the whole company changed already, and he's still right in the queue, resisting it and suffering through it, and through his resistance. So this lack of alignment, and not calling this unsubordination to use a legal language, but being nevertheless at the edge of it, where if you refuse to do what you're told to do, or because the whole company goes a certain direction, you really put yourself as a marginal person, and you're not threatened by anything. In reality, you know so much already about everything, and all the different mechanisms of how a product goes out of this chain, of this production chain. Unfortunately, again, this person is emotionally stuck, and this emotional blockage makes that person resistant. So we're not psychologists. We can only be human, and we also can be very empathetic and have really true compassion to be supportive of these people when they are resistant. And the last point I want to make, and when the breakthrough just happened, was when I asked this very question of who is close to him. If he's been there for 22 and a half years, is there any other one people, are there people that have been there for a long time? Yes, the answer was yes. And there was a couple of people that, in fact, knew him very well. They had a real, connection, a real relationship, friendship relationship. And then I just told my client, who was the manager, to not maneuver and manipulate anything, but just have an open discussions with these people who know him and see how they can be supportive of him. Now that he was within a space of trust, then he could really speak with people who knew him so well. They could even speak his language. When I'm talking the language, not the language, English or French or anything. Language of his way of thinking, understanding, where it comes from and what makes him so emotional about this. When this was really kind of put in place, and that the manager could spend, time and pass this message through to the people that are close to him progressively, you know, inch by inch, very, very slowly and progressively, it was now opening up more and more and more until he was really willing to learn, willing to be trained. And today, he's sitting in in his position, doing what he used to do in terms of managing a crew of people and being on top of everything that he needs to be. Now, it's not a miracle. It took about 8.5 months to get him to accept the change. And then probably 3 or 4 months, it's a year, it's more than a year, for this person to adapt. While it was happening, we made the guy, feel good. We made the guy understand that he really had potential still, and he had probably until retirement another 8 or 9 years to go. This is why this was so sensitive. So I hope that little story tells you something, gives you a little bit of an inspiration to leverage people that are close, not being always the manager who thinks that his communication, his direct communication will play any kind of efficiency here. It's very possible that you have to do this indirectly, right? Not if it's not the friends or the close people to him, it can be just HR, another department, someone else who has another way or another approach. But it's communication, but not direct communication. It's good intentions, it's positivity, and compensating for all the time that this person resists by being patient and creating a space of trust more and more and more every single day. Managing change, in this case, in that story, one of the most extreme way of managing change when people resist change to this, really to the stubbornness and to the extent it was in this case, this is really what I'm underlining here and I'm sharing with you. Anyway, next week won't be happening. We won't have the show live streaming next week, but the following week it will be. And again, I invite you to go on the website and to register to receive a newsletter. You will have all the programming and all the content that we are preparing for you in the next few weeks and few months. And come back. And please, again, this is also recorded. You can come back to it on YouTube, on Facebook Live, on Instagram Live, and on podcast, on uh, Spotify and all the different podcast channels, as well as Apple Store and Microsoft Store and all of these places. Thank you for being with us this afternoon. Thank you for coming back and being loyal to us. And that hopefully, when you can give us feedback, do not hesitate to do so. You have our email. You can do that different ways. And really, please reach out. Give us feedback. We love feedback. And we also give you a feedback of your feedback, especially with gratitude that you are connected and that you're involved. So thank you very much, and see you soon.